So if you're a student and you're wondering what credit card to get, check this video out. I'm going to break down my top 3 choices to get and why I think you should get any one of these credit cards. My name's Kevin. I make videos like this all the time about personal finance, credit cards, investing. So if you like that sort of thing, be sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Now let's jump into it. Getting a credit card is incredibly important. It helps you do a few key things. Number 1, it helps you develop a credit history. A credit history is merely the history that you're going to carry with you, and lenders in the future are going to look at that and say that person is more or less trustworthy and therefore they can borrow from you. Secondly, it's going to allow you to buy things online easily and securely. And third, it's going to be very important to you if you want to get cash back and travel for free, something that I've been doing for the last several years with my wife. I haven't paid for airfare or hotels just because I've used the right credit card. A student credit card is typically a great way to begin the credit card process because they're typically easier to apply for and get approved for than traditional credit cards out there. If you can get a credit card early on, you can develop that credit history, which can save you hundreds, even thousands of dollars on interest on all sorts of things you're probably going to have in the future, such as mortgages, auto loans, or even getting approved to rent an apartment. Having a good credit history is really going to help you out there. If you get a student card early on and when you're in your 18 years old or 20 years old and you show that you're a good borrower, that's going to pay off in the thousands in the future. With that being said, what are the best credit cards to get if you're a student? Well, I'll start with my first recommendation. It was actually my very first credit card, and it's called the Discover It Student Card. Typically, it's a lot easier to get this card than other cards out there on the market because they specifically target students for this card. At a very high level, this credit card is great because it has no annual fee and it gives you very good rewards, and it has a lot of other added benefits as well. One of the key benefits to this card is the fact that it allows you to check your FICO credit score for free. This can be very good if you're just starting out. I know it's something that I really took advantage of when I first got this card as well, because frankly, I had absolutely no idea what my credit score was. If you don't know anything about credit scores and you want to learn a little bit more, I have a few videos on the topic. I recommend checking them out. But for the Discover It credit card, if you simply know what your FICO credit score is, chances are you're going to be able to take active steps in order to improve it. Now, let's talk about the rewards of the Discover It credit card. They're frankly fantastic. Even though I got this card as one of my very first cards, I actually still use it today. The reason is because Discover actually has terrific rewards. This Discover It student card actually comes in 2 different versions. They have a Chrome version and then they also have a cashback version. I'm going to talk about the cashback version because it's a version that I actually have. So the cashback version gives you 5% cashback on rotating categories, and then if it's not one of the categories that you're spending on, you get 1% cash back. That is frankly pretty good. And the 5% rotating categories are actually categories that chances are you will use. They're broad things like restaurants or gas or groceries, things that most people spend money on regularly anyway. These rotating categories change every quarter and they are limited for $1,500 to spend per quarter. But that is still great. That is still a lot of money back to you that you wouldn't have if you were spending with cash. For example, if you're buying groceries, you're not going to buy more groceries just because you're getting more cash back. Chances are, just like I wouldn't. But if you're using this credit card, you're going to be able to get 5% back. It's like going in a grocery store and having a coupon for everything in the store. 5% back on almonds, 5% back on meat. It's really a great thing to have, and that is why I still use this card today. Now, for those who are just starting out and haven't already gotten this card and will get it, here's an extra added bonus. So for all the cash back that you accumulate in the first 12 months of having your Discover card, Discover will actually match it at the end of your year. So if you get 5% cash back on your rotating categories and 1% cash back on everything else, and let's just say that amounts to $100 at the end of the year, well, they're gonna kick in another $100 just to you, just as an added bonus for having this card for your very first year. I frankly don't know any other card that does this, and this is a tremendous benefit. It's an extra added little bonus. When I had this card and the 12-month period came up and I got that extra added bonus from Discover, I had actually forgotten that that was one of the perks that they were giving me, and it turned out to be a nice little boost for holiday spending. The card was good enough on its own, that 5% rotating category and the 1% cash back, that I had simply forgotten that they're gonna throw in the additional money, but it certainly was a great surprise. So if you're first starting out and you want a go-to good, solid, no-frills card that has some extra added benefits like this, Discover is the one for you. Now, because this is a student card, Discover has also added an additional perk to having this card. They will actually give you $20 if your GPA is above a 3.0 each academic year. Now, I know that's probably not going to motivate a lot of people to study extra hard on their test just to get an additional $20, but look at it this way. if you're getting that high GPA anyway, you might as well profit from it now instead of waiting until you actually get a job to have it. An extra $20 is nothing to sneeze at. That's a nice little meal, something to treat yourself for studying so hard. Now, I also will say about this card that it has a very clean app. It's very easy to use, and it has the ability to freeze your card if you lose it, for example, or you're not exactly sure where it is, for those people who are paranoid. Now, what I mentioned before is that you're not going to be liable for the charges, but this is, again, a belt and suspenders sort of thing for you. If you don't know where your card is for whatever reason, or if you don't want to be a little bit more impulsive and you want to limit your spending a little bit, you can just go to your app and freeze your card and then unfreeze it when you're ready to use it again. Now, the only downside to this card is that Discover is sometimes not accepted some places. It's very widely accepted, but occasionally you're going to run into usually smaller retailers that don't accept Discover. For example, if you're going to a mom and pop restaurant, maybe they won't accept Discover, just like they wouldn't accept an American Express. It's not as widely used as Visa or MasterCard. With that being said, most places do accept Discover, and it's gotten more widely accepted, certainly since I've gotten the card many years ago. Overall, Discover is a great company. Their customer service is top notch. You can actually call and talk to a real person right away, and they're actually personable and nice. I actually had a long conversation with one person one time when I was waiting on some things, and their customer service is actually pretty great. So overall, Discover is a great card if you're just looking to get into the credit card game, if you're a student and you're looking for a card that's typically easier to get approved for and you want to have those solid rewards. I'll have links for everything in the description below for you to check out and to actually link right to the website so you don't get confused getting the wrong card. So be sure to check out the description below. Now, the second card I want to talk about is called the Chase Student Card. And this is pretty interesting because Chase actually just released this a little while ago and it hasn't gotten a whole lot of press, but it really should because Chase is a great company, especially when it comes to credit cards. Now, the Chase Student Card is really a pretty solid card. It's not the best card ever, but I'm going to tell you why I like it. So first off, it has no annual fee whatsoever, and you get 1% cash back on everything that you spend on that card. You can also get a $50 bonus when you open this card, but you have to apply for this card in branch. You can't actually apply for it online. For whatever reason, they make you go into the branch. This card also has something similar to the Discover card insofar as it gives you a $20 bonus every calendar year. Now, for those who aren't very good students, don't worry about it because this is not GPA related. So if you don't have the best grades and you're deciding between the Discover card and this one, go with this card if you want that extra $20. The Chase Student Card also allows you to check your credit score, very similarly to how the Discover card works as well. This again is a great benefit because if you don't know what your credit score is, like I didn't before, it can be a nice little benefit because you can actually see how your credit score will increase the more you have a long credit history that is good and you make on-time payments with. Now, overall, the reason why I like this card is twofold. Number one, this card is a Chase branded card, and Chase overall, in my opinion, is the best credit card company out there because it has the most stellar rewards, the most flexible rewards, and something that I use all the time. I have 4 Chase cards, my wife has several as well. I made a video all about my top 5 credit cards and why I think you should get them, and you'll see in that list, there's a few Chase cards in there. And overall, Chase is a great company, so if you can get familiarized with Chase, it's going to be easier for you to get approved once you graduate from this student card into the more high-end credit cards that give you better rewards but are a little bit more sophisticated. In fact, Chase will actually pave the path for you. Once you have this card for a certain period of time, you have the option to upgrade to a Chase Freedom, which is actually very similar to the Discover card, or a Chase Freedom Unlimited card, both of which are really good, and both of those cards I actually use every single day. Now, the second main reason I like this card is because you can get a credit limit increase very easily. If you make 5 on-time payments with this card, you're going to be eligible for an automatic credit limit increase. Now, why is that a big deal? Well, first off, you shouldn't spend more money just because you have more credit available to you. And the reason why I think having more credit available to you is important is because your credit score will be positively affected if you spend the same amount of money, but now you have more credit available to you. It's called your credit utilization rate. My video breaks down that in detail. I recommend checking it out. But at a high level, the more credit you have, assuming you don't spend very much, and the lower your percentage of that available credit you're spending, the higher your credit score will be. And if you're looking to increase your credit score, which chances are you will if you're a student and you're starting out, then this is one great way to do it. Just as a side note, the higher your credit score is, the more available credit card options you're gonna have to you, the more sophisticated and higher end ones, and the ones that actually have bigger and bigger bonuses, the ones that I use to travel for free. If you have a high credit score, you're gonna be able to get approved for a lot of those, subject to a few other small things. So getting a high credit score is not only good to save you money on your mortgage and everything else in the future, it's good for right now. If you wanna spend money on travel and sort of things like that, and you wanna be able to get the most out of your credit cards. Now, the last credit card I wanna talk about is the Bank of America Cash Rewards Card for students. Now, Bank of America has gotten a bad rap, and deservedly so. A lot of the times, the customer service at Bank of America is frankly awful, and their checking accounts are terrible. Check out my videos on the best checking accounts to get if you wanna know my recommendation to get. Hint, it's not Bank of America. With that being said, they've revamped their credit card lineup, and this card is actually pretty decent. So here are the key takeaways. It has no annual fee whatsoever. It gives you 3% cash back on a category that you choose, plus 2% cash back on groceries and wholesale clubs, and then 1% cash back on everything else. Now that 3% category can be anything like gas, dining, travel, home improvement stores. The list is on their website, and I recommend looking at that and deciding if this card would work for you, if one of those categories is one of the major ways that you spend money. Now, with that being said, the rotating categories of the Discover card that I talked about before obviously has a 5% rewards factor, which means you're gonna be earning more in that quarter. So if you have two credit cards, you have the Discover card and the Bank of America card, you're gonna wanna prioritize the one that gives you more rewards in that category. With that being said, if your spending habits are primarily dominated in one area, such as dining, for example, this card may be actually a better choice for you because 3% for the entire year is going to be better than 5% for only a couple months. Like the Discover and Chase credit cards, this card also allows you to monitor your credit score. Again, this is very important to do because it's going to allow you to see the trajectory of your credit score over time. Now, with all of that being said, Bank of America is not my favorite company. This card does seem to be pretty decent, so be warned that this card may serve a limited purpose, and don't get looped into the Bank of America ecosystem because chances are they're going to want to push other products such as their checking account and savings account to you, which I think would be a big mistake because those come with big account maintenance fees and they come with almost no interest at all. There are many, many options out there which are 100 times better. Stuff that I've talked about before. For example, I really love SoFi Money. It is a great account if you want a checking account with no fees and a high interest rate and a bonus to start. So do not get looped into the Bank of America ecosystem if you're gonna have this one credit card. With all that being said, this card does have no annual fee and it has a decent rewards rate, and it is for students, so it is a little bit easier to apply for. Get this card if one of those categories is gonna be your primary spending categories and you think it's gonna be better than the Discover card or the Chase card for you. So those are my top 3 recommendations for credit cards to get if you're a student. With all of that being said, sometimes it is difficult to get approved for the cards that are for students, even though they are marketed for students. If you have absolutely no credit history whatsoever, it may be difficult to get. I will put in the description below some of my recommendations in order to get a credit history enough to where you can qualify for these credit cards. For example, you may be forced to getting a secured credit card. Discover, for example, has a secured credit card, which all that means is you're gonna have to put up a deposit equal to the limit that you have on that card. And then once you have a developed credit history for a couple months, then you're able to get your deposit back, and then it operates like a normal credit card. That can be the first baby step if you have absolutely no credit history whatsoever. For those who are not quite 18 years old yet and can't actually get a credit card but want to start developing their credit history, I recommend actually asking your parents if you can be an authorized user on one of their credit cards. And if they're hesitant and they don't want you to have a credit card, they don't want to have access to their account, just say, give me an authorized user access to your credit card, and I'll put that credit card in the sock drawer. But just by being an authorized user on their account, you're gonna develop a credit history. That's actually something that I benefited from when I first started out. Unbeknownst to me, my mom put me on her credit card as an authorized user a couple years before I went to college, and that allowed me to be able to get this Discover student card right out of the gate, and I didn't have any approval problems whatsoever. That's one way to develop a credit history and not actually have to go this secured card card route. So one last thing I have to mention is that just because you have a credit card doesn't mean that you should spend money just because. Credit card debt is the worst kind of debt there is because it is among the highest interest rate debt that most people are exposed to. A ton of lives are ruined by taking out huge amounts of credit card debt and getting in a situation where you're gonna have to pay late fees and penalties and interest. These things can spiral out of control. So always have the cash in your account to pay for whatever you're spending on your credit card. That is one way to avoid all these problems. If you spend credit cards and you do your normal spend and you pay it off in full every single month, you're going to be just fine. You're actually going to benefit tremendously. You're going to develop your credit history and get a bunch of rewards. One thing to note that is a rumor out there, especially for those who are younger and may hear this around the water cooler a little bit, carrying a balance on your credit card does not at all help your credit history. In fact, it hurts it tremendously. Check out my credit scores 101 video if you really want to know how the credit scores are calculated and how they're important for you in the future. Don't carry balance on your card. Pay off your credit card in full every single month. So overall, what do you think about the credit cards I recommend here? Do you have any of them, or do you know if your friends have any of them? Let me know in the description below if any of these cards are ones that you would get yourself. I really want to know because I know how important it is to develop credit history, and I'm a huge nerd when it comes to credit cards. So please let me know, give me some feedback, and if this video helped you out, I'd really appreciate it if you gave it a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.